someone had their Wheaties this morning, huh? This deep dive is, well, it's a lot. AI, healthcare, we even got some corporate drama brewing.
It's a lot to unpack, for sure.
That's why they pay us the big bucks, right?
Yeah.
To connect the dots and figure out what it all means for, well, for you, dear listener.
And it's interesting, how interconnected these stories actually are. I mean, on the surface, they seem all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
But whether we're talking about the future of tech or what's happening with, these big companies or even just your own personal finances, it all ties together.
It's like that saying, everything's connected. Except in this case, it's actually true. Okay, so let's kick things off with AI. Goldman Sachs, they're placing their bets, and big ones, on what they're calling platform stocks. Two names keep coming up, Microsoft and Snowflake. Why those two? What makes them the chosen ones in the AI gold rush, would you say?
It boils down to having the right tools, right? And in AI, data is king, queen, the whole royal family. Microsoft, with Azure, they're like the landlords of the digital world. They provide the space, the infrastructure for businesses to build their AI dreams.
Okay, so Microsoft's got the real estate, but what about, like, the interior design? You need someone to make it livable, right?
Exactly. You need someone to wrangle all that data, make it usable. And that's where Snowflake comes in. They excel at data warehousing, which is a fancy way of saying they organize the mountains of information AI needs to function.
Okay, so even if we're not all, coding the next big AI program, understanding these big players, it helps us make sense of the bigger picture, right?
Absolutely. Like, think of it this way. It's about spotting those early trends before they become, tidal waves that wash over everything.
Okay, that's a scary but accurate analogy.
Yeah.
And speaking of planning for the future, let's talk about healthcare costs for retirees. This one's personal for a lot of us, and I gotta say, the picture you painted in the briefing, it's a little daunting.
It's definitely a conversation that needs to happen more. People work their whole lives, saving for retirement, dreaming of travel, relaxation, all that good stuff. And then, bam, they get hit with these long-term care costs that can wipe out even the most carefully crafted plans.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of that whole treat yourself mentality, right? It's more like brace yourself.
Right. You've got to be prepared.
And speaking of bracing ourselves, let's talk about a company that might be in for a bit of a shakeup. Southwest Airlines. Elliott Management, they're an activist investor, and they've got Southwest in their sights. What's the deal there?
Right. So when you hear activist investor, don't think like, holding signs and chanting. Think more like strategic overhaul. They buy a big chunk of a company with a very specific goal in mind. In Southwest's case, Elliott Management wants a new CEO, which means they're not happy with the current leadership and how the company's performing.
So yeah, little turbulence ahead for Southwest. And you know what they say? When it rains, it pours, right? Could this whole shakeup, could it end up hitting passengers where it hurts, like in the wallet? Higher fares, maybe?
It's definitely a possibility. These activist investors, they're not afraid to ruffle some feathers, and those changes, they often trickle down to us regular folks, whether it's, tweaking prices, making things more efficient behind the scenes, even expanding into new markets. Yeah, it's something to keep an eye on.
Especially with everything else getting more expensive, right? Like, remember those rising healthcare costs we talked about earlier? Yeah, every dollar counts these days. Okay, enough about the wild blue yonder. Let's talk about the, I guess you could say the wild digital frontier. The briefing mentioned the Aptos blockchain, and I'll be honest, sometimes blockchain feels like, I don't know, like a secret language only a select few speak.
Yeah, it can seem that way, but at its core, blockchain is about trust and transparency, which, let's face it, we could use more of in the digital world. What makes Aptos interesting, though, is that they're trying to, bridge that gap between how complex blockchain actually is and, how easy we all want it to be to use. They're talking faster transactions, better security, and just overall a smoother experience.
So less like deciphering a secret code, more like, I don't know, using an app on your phone, but like a really secure and efficient app.
Exactly.
Okay, so what kind of impact, like real-world impact, could that have?
Think about it. Smoother online payments, safer ways to store your data, even supply chains could become more efficient. And all because of blockchain technology humming along behind the scenes. Aptos is betting on making blockchain something everyone can benefit from, not just, the tech wizards.
So from algorithms we don't understand to, like, buying groceries online, Aptos could be a glimpse into the future of how we do, well, pretty much everything. Speaking of glimpses into the future, how about we do a little rapid fire round? We got a lot to cover, so buckle up. First up, Logic, they're big in medical technology, and they just snagged Gynesonics. What's the strategy there?
This is all about strategic alignment. Dynasonics, they specialize in women's health, minimally invasive procedures. Hologics bring them in-house, expanding their offerings. It's like they're becoming a one-stop shop for women's health needs.
Smart move, especially with preventative care becoming more and more important.
Got to stay ahead of the curve, right?
And speaking of curves, Bitcoin's been on a tear lately. Surged past $64,000, and people are saying $70,000 is within reach. What's driving this crypto comeback?
It's a few things, actually. There's this anticipation that we might finally get some clear regulations around crypto, which has always made investors nervous. Plus, we're seeing more mainstream acceptance, more companies dipping their toes into the crypto waters. It's like legitimacy and confidence are combining to create the perfect conditions for a price surge.
A rising tide lifts all boats, or in this case, all Bitcoins. Okay, let's shift gears from the digital world to something a little more tangible. Cars. General Motors is switching things up with their rewards program. They're partnering with Barclays for their rewards cards instead of Goldman Sachs. What's the big deal with a little credit card shuffle?
It might seem small, but this actually ties into a much bigger trend in the auto industry, especially as GM goes all in on electric vehicles. It's about keeping customers happy and coming back for more in a market that's only getting more competitive. By teaming up with Barclays, GM could be aiming for a more appealing rewards program, maybe with incentives for buying electric or aligning with Barclays' existing customer base.
It's like they're laying the groundwork for an electric vehicle revolution.
Exactly. They're thinking long-term, right? Getting ready for a world where electric cars are just, well, cars.
Smart. Okay, last but not least on our rapid fire round. Silicon photonics. I'll be honest, I had to Google that one, but apparently it's about to be huge. So break it down for us. What is it? Why should we care?
Okay, so silicon photonics, it's all about speed and efficiency, especially in computing. Basically, they're using light instead of electricity to transmit data.
Like fiber optic cables.
Kinda, yeah. But on a much smaller scale, the point is it's faster, and it uses loud energy, which is a big deal with AI and cloud computing taking over the world.
Okay, so 28.3% growth might not sound like much in the tech world, but considering how big this could be, it's significant, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's a good example of how, even if we don't see it, the technology behind the scenes, it's constantly changing.
So from AI investments to, the future of our smartphones, it's clear we're living in interesting times. What's the biggest takeaway for you from all these stories?
I think it's, don't be afraid of change. Stay curious. The world's changing faster than ever, and the only way to keep up is to be open to new information, to learning new things.
I like that. It's not about being overwhelmed by all the headlines, but about being, excited about the possibilities.
Right. Exactly. It's about being proactive, shaping the future, not just reacting to it.
And that's what these deep dives are all about, right?
Oh.
Giving you the information you need to navigate this crazy world.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, on that note, until next time, deep divers, stay curious and keep diving deep.